purposes of doing the things that are best for the students in Union County as well as their families. I ask you humbly, come in and be with us this time. Let the atmosphere here be one of peace, be one where everybody will understand what's going on, and that there will be a sense of community and unity during this time. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for being with us while we make these decisions regarding your children. And for anything, Lord, I haven't asked, could you certain very many things. In your sovereign wisdom, I ask you, please grant unto all of us those things that you know we most stand in need of. In Jesus' name I do humbly pray. Amen.
Thank you. And if we can find a flag, we'd like to stand and have our Pledge of Allegiance. We have a special guest to do that tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we have item number 4, swearing in of a new board member, Mr. Jason Martin. And I think we need to call Mr. J.R. Rowell to the front. And Mr. Martin, would you join him? Do you have any family members you'd like to come up? Wives, cousins, aunts, uncles?
Is that a good thing? Are you sure? Yeah, here, I'm gonna let you hold it. Place your left hand on, or however you want to hold it. Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. Congratulations on your appointment to the Union County Board of Education. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, so help you God?
I do.
Do you further solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
I do.
Do you further swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office of member of the Union County Board of Education according to the best of your skill and ability and according to the law, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations. Jason, let me get you to sign these 3 copies. I'm gonna give you one of them, and then, yeah, just Jason.
Let's do what we normally do. Take a minute to take some pictures and congratulate our new board member.
I'll give one to your, I'll give your wife one of these copies. All right, congratulations, Dennis.
With that done, welcome, Mr. Martin, to the hot seat. Before we do the approval of the agenda, I would like to remove item number 16, risk management, lost time. There has been an issue that came up that has kept staff away from presenting this item to us. They've been spending a lot of time on some other things, and I would just like to move that hopefully next month.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Do I have a second?
Second.
I do have a second, Ms. Helms. Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Good. And now we come to the John H. Crowder Service Award. Ms. Helms, you have center stage, and I believe that maybe we all walk around to the front at this point.
Each month, we recognize a high school student with the John H. Crowder Award for Community Service. Board members, please walk around the front of the table so you can help me honor our April recipient. This award is a living tribute to the late John H. Crowder, who spent more than 31 years serving the children of Union County. Criteria for winning the award are that students must not only be academically successful, but must also have an established history of community service in more than one area or with more than one organization. Tonight, we award the John H. Crowder Service Award to a very special woman from Weddington High School. Would Emily Schill please come forward? Her principal, Jonathan Bowers, said that Emily has proven herself to be a focused, mature, and genuine young woman who possesses a passion for assisting others. She has devoted significant amount of her time working with special needs students at Weddington High School and currently serves as a peer tutor for the Transition to Adulthood program. Over the past 2 years, Emily has devoted 1 day a week volunteering with the Boys and Girls Club of America, and she has gone so far to organize her own service learning club at Weddington High School called Impact Club. In addition, Emily has participated in a variety of local and faith-based volunteer initiatives, including Missionaries for the Poor in Monroe and the missionary work in Jamaica for the same organization. Mr. Bowers said that Emily's commitment to helping those in need should serve as a model for others in our community, and her willingness to place service above self is one of her greatest attributes. We are very pleased tonight to present the April John H. Crowder Service Award to Emily Schill. We congratulate you, Emily, for receiving this award tonight in memory of an amazing man who will long be remembered as a champion for children. Here tonight, to support Emily are her parents, Jody and Sherry Schill, and Weddington Principal Jonathan Bowers. Congratulations, Emily.
Board members, if you will remain where you are, we have a number of individuals we would like to recognize tonight. When I call your name, please come forward and allow the school board members to congratulate you. We are honored to recognize the Cuthbertson High School Band tonight for receiving the Support Music Merit Award from the National Association for Music Merchants. The following students are here to represent the 137 band members enrolled in instrumental music at the school, which is under the direction of Mr. Todd and Ms. Katie Ebert. Please come forward. Phillips Clark, Rachel Evans, Patrick Foray, Brandon Jandrew, Charlie, now if I slaughter this name, let me apologize, Giordano, Brian Griffin, Ben Laramie, Justin Laramie, Kevin Moransky, Garrett McCloskey, Carly Reagan, and Jamilia Sahar. By the way, Phillips Clark, Patrick Foray, Ben Laramie, Kevin Moransky, and Garrett McCloskey were selected for the Honor Band of America. In its 16th year, the program singles out districts for outstanding efforts by teachers, administrators, parents, students, and community leaders to make music education accessible to all students. Cuthbertson is one of only 2 schools in North Carolina and one of 120 schools in the nation to receive the Support Music Merit Award as part of the Best Communities for Music Education program. The same week they were recognized for the Merit Award, the school's wind ensemble was accepted and participated with the National Concert Band Festival in Indianapolis, one of only 15 bands nationwide. Their principal, and this is a bit of news too, we have written down Ms. Kim Moore, but I believe she's got something sparkly on her finger, and she now goes by Ms. Kim Schroeder, is here to support her students tonight. Congratulations to you, Ms. Schroeder. And finally, if you are a parent of one of these fine, fine young people, would you please stand so we can congratulate you? Also, we have 2 very special student athletes who we would like to recognize tonight, as both have gone on to become state champions. Each of you make us proud, and it takes time, we know, and dedication to play a sport, and to perform that sport better than anyone else in the state is quite an accomplishment. These 2 individuals were unable to be at our last month board meeting recognition because of scheduled conflicts at their school. First, we would like to recognize Parkwood High School student Lexi Souther, who is the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's 2A state champion in the 100-yard backstroke. Here to support her tonight is her head coach, Mark Chadwick, the school's athletic director, Mr. Nelson Garner, and Parkwood High School principal, Ms. Stephanie McManus. Also, we have a young man who took an indoor track state championship. Kadarius Lothar from Sun Valley High School is the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's 3A state champion in the men's 55-meter dash. His coach is Michael Williams. The school's athletic director is Chris Batchelor, and also here to recognize him is his principal, Dr. Sean Poole. And in addition to all those folks, we have UCPS Director of Athletics, Mr. Doug Jones. Yes, let's give him a round of applause. One more thing, if you are a parent or grandparent of one of these 2 young athletes, would you please stand so we can congratulate you as well? Do we have... Board members, this concludes our presentation.
They just left. Okay, we're through special recognitions. We're at public comments. Shall I wait a second? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're at our public comments section. 30 minutes has been allotted for public comments. Community members wishing to speak during public comments should state their name, their address, their phone number prior to making any other comments. The board will not hear in open session complaints about the performance of school personnel, personnel issues, or confidential student issues. Individuals may address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes. Any person who is representing a group may address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes. Should a community member wish to seek information or share items that may not be shared during public comments, our deputy superintendents are available to address your concerns or provide information. Our deputy superintendents will stand, if they're not already standing, as I introduce them. Dr. David Clark, Superintendent of Human Resources. Thank you. And Dr. Mike Webb, Deputy Superintendent of Instructional Technology and Operations. And they're both conveniently located together to my left. We have one speaker this evening, and that is Mr. Hugh Duxbury. Please step forward, sir.
My name is Hugh Duxbury. My address is 3825 Waters Reach Lane, Indian Trail, North Carolina 28079. My telephone number is 704-839-1905. And I'm here today. I've had some previous conversations with Dr. Ellis and some of the board members. And I appreciate Dr. Ellis's time, but talking about ROTC, marksmanship activity on school property. It's really air rifle activity on school property. It's not uncommon for schools to do this on school properties, whether it's the old gym or auxiliary gym or the cafeteria. So what I've been asking is, could we have the marksmanship activity back on Sun Valley School property again, like it was in the early 2000s? And I've been asking these questions since November of 2014. Obviously, we've been to the safety committee meeting. The safety committee meeting recommendation was not to allow it on school property. Since that, we've also understood our current insurance carrier does not insure this activity, but I think should we ask them, really, do they know what other schools are doing this, how they insure the other schools? So obviously we did a petition. We handed it out to the parents of the JROTC parents of the Marine unit and the Navy unit, the Marine unit in Weddington, the Navy unit in Sun Valley. I got 177 signatures back from those petitions. So I think the current recommendation was to really do it off school property, and I guess the one free location was Stony Rushing. Our county commissioner offered free shooting at his take-aim rifle range in South Carolina. The challenge with that's if we went after school, that's 22.7 miles away. You know, gathering up the rifles, the air rifles to take, is more probably an hour activity to get there and an hour back. During the winter months, they close at sunset, and just really getting the students there and participating would be the challenge. And not to mention, at the rifle range, there's other high-powered, it's not a closed session, so it's open to other shooting activities with other handguns and other high-powered guns. Now, just before I run out of time, if we take a look at the risks with the air rifle marksmanship or the sport, it's really one of the safest sports if you compare it to the other. So I'll read this. Air rifle target shooting is almost certainly the safest of all youth sports. To verify the statement, we must examine the overall safety record of the supervised air rifle target shooting. There are 6 known injuries causing incidents among the National Council program during the 11-year period from 2004 to 2014. Injuries in high school and college sports are calculated according to injuries per athletic exposure. Each practice or game counts as one athletic exposure. In the recent study, boys football had the highest injury rate of 4.
Mr. Duxbury, we've run out of our 3 minutes, and I gave you a little extra because you kind of represent a group just a little bit. Could you provide that information to one of the staff members that we can?
I have this documented here.
It might be good to provide that to staff members so that they could provide it to us later, and that will be good. Thank you, sir.
Who's a staff member? Right. It's just that football was 4.36 and the air marksmanship was 0.0017.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, we come to number 9, open session meeting minutes for approval. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Make a motion that we approve.
Thank you, Ms. Helms. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Guzman, thank you. Any questions about any of those? All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed? I see none. Thank you. The consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Do I have a second? I do. All those in favor? I'm sorry, that was Ms. Merrill. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? I see none. Thank you. And now we're up to Ms. Seebeck for the TQ&E presentation.
All right. Good evening, Board of Education members, of course, and Central Services staff. We are so happy to have you this evening, and we're so proud of our school and our staff and our students, and we want to show you how much we take pride in our school. And we have worked closely with the instructional technology facilitator, Jeremy Evans, at our school. And we have students here that are going to show you all that they have learned. And you will be very impressed, I know. So we want to welcome them, and we're going to start off with my little first grader, Connor. So enjoy.
Good evening, Union County School Board of Education and Central Service staff. My name is Connor Flynn. I am in Miss Stefano's first grade class. In science, I've been learning about North Carolina animals. I'm happy to present my presentation to you. Please enjoy. Amazing Animal Project by Connor Flynn. My animal is the baboon. My animal looks like this. Baboons have really long tails. Baboons have really sharp teeth. Most baboons have gray or brown hair. Those are some of Africa's most popular colors. Baboons have really good eyes. They can see really well. Baboons have hair on most of their bodies, except probably some parts of their face. My animal's habitat. Baboons live in Africa. Mouse baboons live in savannas. Savannas are a big piece of land covered with grass. Some baboons live in the forest because there are some forests in Africa. Baboons live together in troops. Baboons could live in the zoo if you can find them. Baboons live nowhere around houses except, the zoo. My animal eats. Baboons eat plants. Baboons also eat animals. For example, the plants and animals are: baboons eat fruit, nuts, rabbits, and bugs. Those are some examples. This is how my animal gets food. Baboons might walk 5 miles or 8 kilometers to find food, just to find food. That's a lot. That's a while. Oops. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Baboons show their sharp teeth to scare enemies. Like I said, they have very sharp teeth. Baboons are called primates, and they're really strong. Baboons weigh up to 26 to 9 pounds. My dad probably can't even lift that much. Okay. Yeah, stop that. Okay. Female baboons stay with their mothers for their whole life, which could be up to 30 years. That's a long time. Other types of this animal. Another type of this animal is a howler monkey, a chimpanzee, or a gorilla. My website was Pebble Go. Thanks for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Now I'm proud to present the 5th graders.
Good evening, Union County School Board and Central Services Administration. I'm Renz Joseph.
I'm Sarah Grayson Durko.
And I'm Lucas Fiola.
Today we will be presenting the water cycle project.
This presentation was from our last unit.
What is the water cycle?
Well, Sarah, the water cycle is the process by which water moves through the atmosphere and environment.
Let's talk about that.
Please enjoy our presentation.
Evaporation. Evaporation is the process by which sun's heat turns water liquid back into water vapor. The vapor rises into the sky.
Condensation. Condensation is the process by which water vapor turns back into liquid drops. It's what forms clouds. The atmosphere is very cold, so it turns the vapor into water. Some of the clouds are made out of ice crystals.
Just like cirrus clouds.
Yeah.
Now it's time for precipitation. Precipitation is the process by which any form of water that falls from the clouds, such as
rain, sleet, hail, or snow.
This happens when clouds get full of water. Lots of precipitation can cause floods.
Now for transpiration. Transpiration is the process by which plants give off water through their stomata. They take in water through their roots. Evaporation happens with the plant's water. Respiration. Respiration is the process by which wildlife exchanges gases with their environment. They drink water and get water from their food. And when they breathe, water from their lungs comes out. Also, when animals urinate, they put water into the environment.
Percolation. Percolation is the process by which water slowly seeps into the ground. This water is called groundwater. It flows through the ground and into oceans, lakes, rivers, streams, etc.
Runoff. Runoff is fallen precipitation that runs over land into waterways such as
streams, oceans, lakes, and rivers.
When runoff goes through salty and dirty streets, pesticides on grounds, and other chemicals, it pollutes the water it flows into.
Evection. Evection is the movement of water through air. Evaporation causes evection because water vapor rises into the air. Clouds are also states of evection. When there's precipitation, water is falling down in the air.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Watersheds. Watersheds are areas of land that are drained by a common system of waterways such as rivers, streams, etc. This water goes into bodies of water like oceans and lakes.
This was a rap that we used for our classroom so the kids would get into the water cycle and they would understand it more.
Thanks for watching. Brought to you by LSR Productions.
I just wanted to add one more thing. First of all, thank you to their parents for taking the time out and bringing them out here tonight. They have worked so hard, and I want you to know that we have such a great, as a system, focus on technology and globalization. And so we want you to know our school is dedicated and are excited about new things to come with technology. And as you can see, at any age, whether it's first grade or fifth grade, as we're getting ready to send them off to middle school, they are fully capable. And as we have the highest expectations for technology, we're excited for future endeavors for our students. So thank you again for coming out tonight. And Mr. Collins, I believe you're up. Okay. Okay.
See, we have some special guests coming in also. The League of Women Voters is giving a, is it Government 101 class?
Civics 101.
Civics 101, I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. And they have been meeting in another room, and they're coming in here to see the process now and visiting with us for a short while. Thank you, Mr. Schultz, for getting them all in here. Appreciate that. We are now at item 13, the superintendent's report, and that would be Dr. Ellis.
Good evening, everyone. I really thought that the past month was a light month in the way of extra meetings and things until I got to writing them down, and I realized, oh my word, it was over a page long, so here we go. First of all, I was privileged to attend, and I know that Ms. Harrell joined me, and there may have been other board members there that I'm just having a senior moment right now. We attended the East Elementary resolution ceremony. The school has revamped their mission and vision, and they have recommitted themselves to student achievement, and so we were very pleased to be invited. I see some folks in the audience who were also invited and who attended along with staff, and I want to commend Principal Mr. Denny Ferguson, and along with his teachers and staff. They are truly making great strides at East Elementary. In addition, the working group met since our last meeting, and as a matter of fact, we have another meeting tomorrow night, and I'm looking forward to the presentation tomorrow night. I also attended the 2015 Association of School Administrators Conference in Raleigh. I went specifically to look at a little piece of plunder that we can use in the school system to assess curricula, to see that we're getting the bang for our buck with that. We were successful in becoming a pilot for the state with that, so I'm looking forward to implementation with that. Also, since its inception, I've been a strong supporter of Chairs for Charity at Porter Ridge Middle School. The art teacher, I hired her when I was principal at Porter Ridge, and I also taught her when she was in school. Partners with Cindy's Hope Chest and another agency to raise money for cancer research. And again, this year they had about 30 beautiful, beautiful chairs. If you've never attended that and they're auctioned off, it's a silent auction. I would hope that you would go there. They even sent me a commemorative T-shirt. I got it in the mail last night. I'm going to have to wash it and wear it. Was privileged to meet with Speaker Tim Moore and Representative Craig Horn when the board had their legislative breakfast a couple of weeks ago, and that was headed by Ms. Boyd and Mr. Guzman. I think the board members made some inroads with our legislative agenda, or the board's legislative agenda, to provide better understanding for our legislators. In addition, I met with a group of stakeholders about our upcoming budget, or the superintendent's budget, that we'll be talking about tonight. And the stakeholders were parents, teachers, teacher assistants, principals. I'm leaving out some groups, I'm sure, but multiple groups to discuss the budget and but to come up with it. In addition to talking with teachers and site-based committees, and that we'll talk about that during the budget presentation. The Large District Consortium continues to work with our legislators. Met with Mr. Craig Horn in a couple of weeks ago. He is putting forth a differentiated pay bill that the state is going to, my guess is it has strong support and it has bipartisan support. And if it passes, it will change the way that teachers are paid, and I needed to seek understanding so I could see what it was. There is $5 million in the bill for administration. There is this much money in the bill for extra teacher pay. It is what I call robbing Peter to pay Paul. It is making choices to forego other things or change things around within our current budget. But as I said, it has strong support, and need to make sure I understood where Mr. Horn was coming from. And there were 4 superintendents there from around the state. And we also tried to share with him some of our concerns, mainly that there was no extra money, that we would be either reducing teachers to get this money or teacher assistants or something. We would have to find a funding source for it. Met with the student advisory group. That's a group of juniors and seniors, 5 or 6 from each of our high schools. We continue to talk about anti-bullying and things that the students can do, because we adults will never solve the problem. We can legislate, we can mandate, and we can plead, but it's going to be up to the students to self-monitor. So we had another session with that to talk about plans and things that the school, not just plans, but what the students are doing. Marvin Elementary School and Shiloh Elementary School, among others, are in their 3rd year of immersion programs. And I went to visit the kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade classes in each of the immersion programs. Mandarin is at Marvin, and Spanish is at Shiloh. That's alliterative. I didn't even think about that. I went in the kindergarten class at Marvin, and a little girl tripped, a little kindergartner. She started crying. And do you know what language she was crying in? Mandarin. I did not understand a word the child said. And I asked someone, I said, what's she doing? They said, she's telling the teacher she hurt her elbow. And I said, in what language? Dr. Ellis, it's Mandarin. They don't speak anything but Mandarin in the class. It was the end of March, and the child was crying in Mandarin Chinese. Don't tell me this is not working. By the time I got to the 2nd grade class, they were, I was talking with a teacher, and she said that a high school Spanish teacher from Sun Valley High School came and visited the 2nd grade class and said these 2nd graders were doing some things that the high school Spanish students were not doing. So for those parents and those children who are interested in it, it is such a wonderful thing. And board members, I would invite you to go and see. I know when the board meeting was at Unionville, I don't know how long ago, October, the 1st grade class did some things in Spanish, but these children, it's 90% in the either Mandarin or Spanish. It was something to marvel. That's something at which to marvel. Also, had a United Way volunteer thank you breakfast. Met the new executive director for United Way for the region. I believe he's 33 years old, and he is over a multi-million dollar operation. And I think that probably we can do better than we've done. And our school system did the best this year we've ever done at close to $200,000, but it was a thank you. And I will tell you that more of our schools were recognized than were not recognized of the 53 schools. And schools like East Elementary, with close to 100% poverty, had like a 40% increase in giving to the United Way. Folks, that says something. That speaks volumes. In addition, the Men of Valor, we partner with Wingate University, Mr. Massoy Henry, and Mr. Henry works with about 20 of our youth at Forest Hills and Monroe who would not be college bound otherwise. These are minority youth, and we had a graduation, and 16 of the 20 graduated, and they're filling out their college paperwork to attend either a 2 or 4 year university. I'm very heartened by that, and have a very strong partnership with Wingate and Mr. Henry. In addition, Dr. Stan Sedor and he's the president of South Piedmont Community College. For some time, I have been concerned about I've always been concerned about our graduation rate, but I'm concerned because we have children who leave us who go to South Piedmont and get a high school adult diploma, and they're counted as dropouts. If that's my child or yours, that's not a dropout. That's doing a good thing. That is finishing the education. And my size has got to fit me. So we visited with Mr. Brody and Mr. Arp and Mr. Horn and Senator Tucker, and took them an idea that we, the South Piedmont and Union County Public Schools, believe that we can twofold. If the child, if I believe in my size fits me, and a child wants to leave Union County Public Schools and go to the community college and get a high school adult diploma, that they can transfer there and become the community college's student and not ding us as a dropout and not ding them. And it's a pilot program. The other part of it is that Senator Tucker has filed a bill about the exorbitant cost of remediation for students. And we consider a child to not have to be remediated, and this is an agreement between the state, the community colleges, and the Department of Public Instruction, if they have a 2.6 GPA and they have successfully passed what used to be called Algebra 2, now it's Math 2. And I believe last year we had 53 students that needed to be remediated at community college. That's 53 too many. So we're going to start working on that, and our proposal is that it's not going to cost any extra money. We rearrange the dishes, that if a child takes a college entrance test, if they're thinking about community college at the end of 10th grade, and if they don't pass it, then we take them out of an elective course. Now, they and their parents have to agree to it, and they go into a community college remediation course. They finish the remediation course and they pass, they can go straight into a college course. So they can get their math, their English, just whatever they want to get taken out. Now, I cannot make a child go to community college, nor can you. And I cannot make a child, I taught school for 18 years. It is hard to make a child do something they don't want to do when it comes to learning. Now, they can sit there like a knot on a log, but you can't make them learn. So we're hoping this will be an incentive for children to not drop out of school, and then we can remediate them while they're in high school, and it will not cost the taxpayers of North Carolina double. And the money will follow the child, that we will remediate them in high school and they will be prepared to go to college. So that bill was being filed today at 3 o'clock. And that is a pilot program for Union County. And I also talked with the superintendent in Anson County and invited him to participate, Dr. Michael Freeman and Dr. Stan Sedor at the community college. And I've not said anything to you guys about it because I really didn't know if we could make it work or not. But we met with Mr. Brody at the legislative breakfast. He invited us to come to Raleigh. And because of the legislative breakfast, I'll give a lot of credit to that, we were able to get the bill filed. And as it is not going to cost the General Assembly anything, I'm hopeful they will allow Union County Public Schools to pilot this to see if we can, and even if it's only 50 children, one of those 50 might be mine or yours. So it's totally worth it. Make you aware of that. I attended last week the State Teacher of the Year celebration in Raleigh. Our Union County Teacher of the Year, Ms. Jennifer Whitley, who was also the Southwest Region Teacher of the Year, did not win the State Teacher of the Year, but that's okay because she's our Teacher of the Year. And we love her, and she, I think, had a great time. It was about a 4-hour soiree. It was an event in Raleigh. And finally, yesterday, we had our School Resource Officer banquet. And we partner with the Sheriff's Department and the Monroe PSO, and through a very rigorous process, named an SRO of the Year, and that was Officer Stephanie Harms. She's the SRO at Parkwood Middle School. And so she was named SRO of the Year, and I just wanted to inform you of all of the above. I'll be glad to answer questions. But Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation.
I'll actually do it with the mic on. Thank you. Any questions regarding superintendent's report? The SRO reception was very nice. I was pleased to see many board members there. Thank you. We now are at item number 14. Dr. Ellis, Mr. Karpinski, the 2015-16 superintendent's proposed budget presentation for us.
We sent this out to you guys in the packet last week before the Court of Appeals rendered their decision. So you will see in the superintendent's budget jury award, obviously that is no longer there. And as I have presented my budget, it will then be up to you guys to work with that, because this is my budget. And when it becomes tonight, the board's budget to discuss, and it will go back to finance. And certainly Dan and I have some recommendations, but it will be the board's budget. So Dan, at this time, if you want to go through this.
Absolutely. We're going to put it up on the screen for the audience.
You're going to have to talk louder. I can't even hear you.
Okay. Good evening, board. We're going to put it up on the screen for the public to look at, as well as you have it in your packages. Before you have the superintendent's proposed budget, and this process began back in November of 2014, and it's been a process like it always is, and we've went to all the stakeholders, we've talked to principals, they've talked to site-based committees, and I think Dr. Ellis wants to expand on that.
They talked to their site-based team, they talked to PTO, and they talked to their teachers and prioritized needs, and we took out some wants to have the needs are what's left.
Yeah, and like all budgets that we prepare, this is promulgated by GS 115C 426, and we follow that strictly. It goes from the superintendent's proposed budget, then it will go through committees, board finance committee, of course, the capital. It has been going through the board facilities committee, as well as a working group as per session law 214-8. So this year's been a little different, but still follows the same path. And at this time, when this was prepared, as Dr. Ellis mentioned, things have changed, but we've also were working off of the governor's budget. The governor's budget had certain things that are going to impact the local budget. We've incorporated those into Dr. Ellis's proposed budget, and we don't know what the House is going to do yet. We hear bits and pieces that House is doing this or that, but we're not sure what they're going to actually come up with in terms of the bill, in terms of their proposed budget, excuse me. Then it'll go to the Senate. And once the Senate actually puts out their budget, ultimately it'll go to conference, and that will be the budget for North Carolina to include K through 12 education. So it's a process, and we're in the home stretch because by law we have to have it to the county commissioners by May 15th, and at the next board meeting we would expect to have the board finance committee already looking at it, the work going through the working group and the facilities committee on the capital outlay side of the House. But as usual, we'll have it to the county commissioners in a timely manner based on GS 115C 426. There's a lot of information in the budget executive and message to citizens, which I think is important. It's out on our website, of course, but essentially we have a lot of challenges, including utilities going up, compensation packages being strained because of competition in nearby counties and actually bordering states, counties. And then, of course, the pressures put on by the state in what they do. If they give a teacher a $2,000 raise at the 0 to 4 experience level, we're going to experience a harder hit for that because we pay our lower paid teachers on the local budget. So as you'll see when we talk about the numbers, some of those things come out in the superintendent's proposal. So if you could bring it down to the numbers, a lot of this is talking about how successful we've been, what we're doing with the proposed money. And of course, we want to have the highest quality in our teachers, in what we do, and of course, ultimately for our students. With that said, Dr. Ellis, did you want to expand anything on the budget executive summary, or do we want to get right into the proposal?
Let's get right into it, and then we can stop at a couple line items, because I do want to talk about salary adjustments for teachers and other working groups when we get there, and also the charter schools, because there's a myth out there that I fully intend to debunk tonight.
Very good. Thank you. With that said, I'm on page 4 of the budget, which gets into what we received as a 2014-2015 county appropriation, and that amount is $87,097,884. And of course, that's what we received this year, and increases are about to happen for various reasons. But our Casey, if you can go up one more page, please. First and foremost, one of the big pressures that we don't have a control over a lot of these costs that are going up, but some we do and some we don't. But utility costs, it's expected, as per our discussions with the county finance staff, that our utility costs are going to increase. So whether we put it in the budget or not, we're going to get a bill from primarily Duke Power. That's where most of our electric expenses incurred, and we're going to have to pay the bill. So that is our estimated. This year we're running really tight, and I think the numbers we were looking at back when this number was prepared, we were actually looking at a slight deficit. People don't realize how big the school system is, but our utility budget overall is over $10.5 million. So 737,000 sounds like a huge amount of money, and it is. But people will also have to realize that we're already paying out over $10.5 million, and that's water, sewer, garbage, all your utilities. We pay several utility companies, but Duke Power being one of our biggest suppliers.
And I want to jump in there and say that Dan and Mike Webb have met with Mr. Jeff Yates the third or fourth time, I think. Is it 3 or 4? 3. And we're proposing the same increase for utilities that the county is. I feel like that there is a very strong working relationship among these 3 gentlemen, so that nobody is surprised that we're talking with one another. And these are things that have not happened in a good long while. So the increase that Dan, and that it's in the superintendent's budget that Dan just described, is the same percentage rate, right, Dan, as the county's asking?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we were told by Mr. Yates. The next item, and this is something that happens when we get an increase to the county appropriation, and if we were to get what Session Law 214-8 says, which is approximately 2.5 million and change, we would automatically have to give the charter schools their proportionate share of that $2.5 million. And I know this is one of the points that Dr. Ellis really wants to stress. You know, we put our budget, the superintendent's budget together based on 3 critically identified areas. 1, session law, and I believe we're all knowing, and that's an important part of this. We also were dealing with the appeal at the time, and that was back when this was printed and sent out to you before we knew that news. And then last but not least, the issue with the driver ed. Well, those 3 components make up this request at this point in time. That's the superintendent's request. You all can change it the way you see fit. But the myth that we had heard about was the fact that we're asking for the 2.5 million in Sessions Law 214-8, plus on top of that, we want money for the charter schools. No, that's not the case. The case is when we get that, or if we get that 2.5, almost $2.6 million, this will be their share. They're going to send me invoices. I got to pay it. And the reason it's so large is they're growing. Charter schools are growing proportionately faster than we are. We now pay, I believe, 16 charter schools. We know that's going to increase somewhat. At least one more we'll be paying is North Carolina Virtual Charter School. That's a certainty as well. But the enrollment at the charter schools, we're projecting, or I should say the state DPI is projecting 1.36% increase in student enrollment. Well, charter schools, based on what I'm seeing, and it's just doing a trending line, looks like they're going to grow 10%. So just nice simple math, if they have 1,000 students right now, I'm projecting they're going to have 1,100. I know it's greater than that, but it's probably like 1,300, and they're going to have 14 something next year. So the trend is they're growing faster than us for various reasons. They're new. People like to go there, and that's their will and that's their desire, and we have no problem with that. But if they are Union County resident students and they go to a charter school, whether it's to Union Academy or Grandfather Mountain or Ace Academy, or even we've even had one student of ours went to the school that bellied up. But bottom line is, they go there and they're a Union County resident student, we have to pay our portion, our full portion of the county, their worth of the county appropriation.
I listened to the Board of County Commissioners special call meeting on April 6th online, and you can go and listen. And at 1 hour and 22 minutes and about 13 seconds, they go to talking about that they believe it to be unfair that we're asking for $2.5 million and then asking for the charter school money on top of that. And that goes back to a lack of understanding. And that's not a negative. We're school people and they're not. And that's why we've got to keep the lines of communication open. And when we realized that I was listening to it over spring break. I have more of a life than that, but that's when I was listening to it. And I thought, oh my, that's not right. So when Dan and Mike met with Jeff today, that was the first thing they covered, and I asked them to cover. It was also then communicated to a county commissioner that was inaccurate. No stones cast, no dispersions cast. It's just simply a lack of understanding that whatever appropriation we receive from them, we then cut out of that money. That is not money on top of. And the way we list it, we are duty bound to list the needs, not what we think we should get. And this is the superintendent's budget. Now, the board can do their budget as they see fit. But I believe I am duty bound to list the needs of the Union County Public Schools, not what I think we're going to get. And Mr. Karpinski was right. We listed the 2.5 from the session law. I met with Ms. Cotto it's cold weather, maybe January, February, about the driver's ed when I realized there was going to be some issue with that. Met with her and said, if the state will let us do online coursework, we can save a couple $100,000, but we're still going to be $500,000 short. And she said, are you asking us for it? I said, well, I believe we may put it in the budget. Now, if they don't fund it, that is fine. That is not an argument for me, but that is a need. And then the third part, when it was the jury award, and even the jury award's gone away, and the thing that the board's going to have to discuss is what are we going to do about the current expense? That's the thing left. The bottom line is I asked Dan to do some research regarding our teachers. Our teachers receive on the average a 7% supplement. The counties we compete with are Charlotte-Mecklenburg, Rock Hill, Fort Mill, places like that. The lowest their supplement is 9.75%. Charlotte-Mex is 17%. Now, I'm not saying we should go to 17% overnight. I know that. But we are losing between 300 and 500 teachers a year. We train A0 teachers, new teachers. They stay with us a year or two, and then they go on where they make more money. And these are good people. I checked the numbers this afternoon, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was between 80 and 100 that we lost last year that said, I've got to go make more money. So I believe I'm duty bound to say that we need to increase the teacher supplement. True, Stanley County's is lower than ours, and Anson County's is lower than ours. We're not competing with them for teachers, folks. We're competing with CMS and the school systems in South Carolina. Our children are doing better than the children in CMS on tests, and South Carolina's test scores, apples to oranges, who knows, but I need to put it before you that I believe there needs to be a supplement increase for our teachers. And saying that, I understand that there's some folks said, well, if Mary Ellis thinks that the teachers need an increase, then she needs to find a way in her budget to do that. Folks, 86% of our budget is tied up in people. That does not leave a whole lot of money. The pot of money we have, a lot of it's 061 money. That means nothing to you, but that is instructional materials, supplies, and equipment. That's got to go for instruction for children. That's how we paid for the Chromebooks for children. So there's not a pot of money that I can go in and take 2, 3, 5, 10 million, whatever, to give teachers a pay increase, because we are heavy in people, because it takes people and hands to teach children. So when people say they're tired, I'm tired of hearing Mary Ellis talk about rearranging the dishes to do X, Y, and Z. If she can do that, why can't she do it for teacher pay supplements? Well, it's far different for me rearranging the dishes to find $20,000 to start this next academy, because that's federal CTE money. I can rearrange that. It's not extra money to find. And once we give a teacher a supplement of an extra $1,000, that's not a one-time deal. That's an every year deal. And I'll say it again, 86% of our money, and Dan, I'm right on that, yes, is tied up in people. So there is not that kind of money for me to find it. And that's not defensive. That's just letting it out there that's why we've not. And last year we were able, with what the county gave us, we were able to come back and do some things. And we do to the best of our ability based on what you guys say is fair game. But I wanted to make sure you understood about the teacher supplements and why that is still part of the superintendent's recommendation. Now, it can be part of yours or cannot be part of yours. And I will smile at you either way you go. But the people with whom we're competing are paying a ton more in supplement than what we're paying. And that's just teachers. I didn't talk about bus drivers. I didn't talk about cafeteria workers. I didn't talk about maintenance workers. I didn't talk about technology workers. We have gotten our folks just about to market with the last couple of years, just about to market. But you know what happens to that dadgum market? It keeps going up and up. I'm to the point now where if the county gives us any money for non-certified, we would go to some kind of performance plan. I know we talked about that. I even sought and obtained the performance plan from the county to see how they were doing it. I have no problem with that, but it's just simply that we can't stop thinking about that, because when we stop talking about it, other places continue to do more and more and more. And I've probably talked too much about that. I'm sorry.
No, it's very important. And as you saw in the budget executive summary, that is one of the primary focuses that we have to really look at. And I'm not sure if you threw out what percentages you threw out, Dr. Ellis, but I do have the notes here. And, we're competing with places like Kershaw, York, Chester, Cherokee, Lancaster, Rock Hill, Fort Mill. To begin with, those are South Carolina bordering us counties, but their salaries are higher to begin with. And then those ranges of teacher supplements go from 10.83% to 14%. And then Charlotte Mecklenburg themselves goes from 14.99 to 17.05. So that's who we're competing against. And that's the number that we're going to try to get to someday. But this request only asks to get up to about 9%, average of about 9%, from 7% to 9%, as you'll see on the next page.
Can I go back to driver's ed one moment? Because
absolutely. And then we can go through the rest of this.
I want to clarify driver's ed for you. All right, and John, if our driver's ed budget's $993,000 or 990 something, right? And of that, parents this year pay $55. Next year, the legislation allows $65. Once we back out what the parents will pay, we're still $750,000 delta. We sought input from DPI about doing online modules for the 30 hours classwork and having one person oversee every bit of that, and that would save us about $200,000. We were told we couldn't do it. So I went to Raleigh and I asked the legislators why we couldn't do it. If they're changing laws, could we change something so we could save some money? So there is a bill that has been introduced that would provide for online instruction. We are in the development of the modules right now. Do I think that is optimum? Not for every child, no, but there's also a bill that Pittman introduced, I believe, that says it's the parents' responsibility for driver's ed. That has also been introduced. So if we can get the online, if we can get the law passed and get the online, we're still at a delta of $500,000. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm asking the county commissioners for it, but if they don't, there's no hard feelings here, because that is something the state has historically paid for and they're pushing down. And if at the end of the day, it's on the school system's back, $500,000 equals 10 teaching positions. That is exactly what it equals. And I've already talked to high school principals that if this comes to pass, I'm not going to ding elementary and middle because they're getting dinged for teacher assistant loss. I'm going to ding each high school one position for driver's ed, because the only thing we have, 86% of it, is people. So I want you to be very clear. I do not plan to beat up on the county commissioners for this, because as a taxpayer in North Carolina, I have very mixed emotions about it being the county commissioner's responsibility to pay for this. Go ahead, Dan.
Very good. Going back to the third item on the list, local fiscal impact of state virtual charter schools. The state has created 2 virtual charter schools that are going to have 3,000 students. This is literally my best estimate of how many students might go to these charter schools. And there's 2 different students that could attend. One, they could be our students that attend, and we are about 2.73% of the student population in North Carolina. Well, I took 2.72 or 3% of this 3,000 and put it on a page and said, okay, well, how much is that going to cost us if our students go there? But the unknown, that's very difficult, and I don't even know if that percent will actually attend out of our student population. But you have homeschoolers that could attend North Carolina virtual charter schools, and we'd also have to pay $790 per student as well. So that number, 86,373, I can show you the math. Is the math worth anything other than the pen and or ink and paper that it's written on? No, but it's what we think might be the cost of this new virtual charter school. Estimated local cost of governor proposed teacher pay. I talked about that a little bit earlier. Based on what we know, the governor's proposal, and I think it's going to go through the House and Senate very similarly, because I think they started this process 2 years ago. They're going to increase teachers with 0 to 4 years of experience, their salary from $33,000 to $35,000. I believe, unless something's changing, the rest of the salary schedule for teachers will stay the same, because that next bracket is, I believe, at $36,500 already. So the new schedule would be 0 to 4 would get $35,000 plus benefits, and then the 5th year you'd get what's on the schedule now at $36,500. But once again, anytime that the state increases those lower paid salaried individuals, teachers, we are going to bear that cost on our local and federal budgets. Federal budgets are going down or staying the same, while the cost of benefits, the cost of salaries for these lower paid people, because that's who we put there. We put our higher paid people on the state, put lower paid people on local and federal budgets. And that's why you see this significant $385,000 increase, because that governor's teacher pay increase actually impacts the local and federal budgets more than it impacts the state budget. It doesn't, in fact, impact both, though. Next thing is retirement and health insurance. I believe these are reliable numbers. I received one of them from DPI early on in the session. Health insurance, when we had our stakeholders meeting, that's when I determined that this number, there was a person at the table that was in the know about how much they thought health insurance was going to increase. Ms. Kim Hargett, now I have a lot of faith in what she's doing at the state level and would have at least been involved or known or heard that percentage, she actually said it was going to be anywhere from 3.1 to 3.8, but they think they were going to settle around 3.37. So that's what I use. So bottom line is, once again, if these rates change, we're paying the bill. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. So that's retirement health insurance, move locally paid assistant principals to next tier on the state salary schedule. This is again in the governor's proposed budget. Essentially, when an assistant principal gains more years of experience, the state salary schedule gives them an increase for that. And we have a significant amount of assistant principals that are paid with local funds, and that's this $49,495. Insurance, I wish there was something we can do about it, but we're looking at about a 3% increase for insurance premiums. Now we're getting into the compensation packages that Dr. Ellis has talked about. The COLA is for non-certified personnel. That's just a cost of living adjustment. That's not a raise. That's not salary increase. That's just keeping up with cost of living. Then we have the teacher supplements. I think we've talked a lot about that. This particular amount of $3.575 million would get us to approximately an average of a 9% teacher supplement. We're at around 7%. Some get a little less, some get a little bit more, but it's approximately an average of 7%. This would get us to 9%. The lowest one I mentioned was at 10.83. So even with this, we'd still be behind most of the competitive counties. Then we have principal supplements, and once again, we're competing with this market, and quite frankly, some principals and assistant principals are worth as well as they get the job done, and this is what you need to make it put it in market perspective.
And I think today in the General Assembly, a bill was introduced to increase significantly principal pay. I don't know the number, but I think that was due to be introduced today.
And that's certainly something that we would consider if we get that additional information. If the state's going to do it, then we wouldn't have to, because all of our principals are paid with state funds. We can go up one page. Then we have maintenance, safety inspections, painting, custodial supplies, repair cost increases. This is something that was on last year's budget. Didn't get funded, so we continue to need it. The next item is the athletic supplements. We're really behind, and I don't think our athletic supplements have been increased for a long time. This was on last year's budget request, and it's still there, and it's definitely needed. Now, this next one about charter schools, as you can see, it's if we get the 4.9. Well, we know that's not going to happen the way that was expected, potentially, but bottom line is, and you could say, well, if we get 2.5 and we're going to have to give 461 to the charter schools, why does 4.9 only equate to 231? It doesn't seem to make sense. Well, in the first equation, those faster growing charter schools than we are, they don't just get their portion of this 461,000, they will get their portion of the 89 or 90 million dollars. So that's why that number up top is greater than the next number. Then I add the 4.9 to it. They've already been paid the base, and now this is on top of it, only related to the 4.9 that we're talking about. So that's just if we got more money. If I get a dime more, I got to share that with charter schools. That's just the way it is. Salary supplement adjustments closer to market for UCPS. That is always necessary. It doesn't specify who. As Dr. Ellis said, there's certain categories of people that we just can't keep, and we have to look at those markets and make those adjustments accordingly. And then last but not least, we already talked about the driver training funds. So with that, that's the current expense request. The capital outlay, is there any questions
Yes,
about current expense?
Can I stop you there? I'd like to go back to the first page in regards to the charter schools. Can you tell me whether it's a virtual charter or a regular traditional charter school, is our payment per student, is it the same regardless of if it's virtual or not?
Yes, there is a difference, and you have a few things going on. You have a charter, the law on the virtual charter school says that if a Union County resident student attends a virtual charter school, you will pay them the greater of, I should say, excuse me, the lesser of $790 or the per pupil county appropriation. Well, that means we got to pay each of those. We have to pay the North Carolina virtual charter school $790 per child in that case. Now, on the NC virtual schools, they pretty much take, they give us a state allotment and then they'll take money away from our ADM to pay for the North Carolina virtual public school. So that's a different thing. That's not a virtual charter school. That's a virtual public school that's been advertised on a TV. If one of our students goes to that school, we are just, the state takes money from us for that. I hope that answers your question.
Well, yes, it kind of does. So it's $790 per student who enrolls in a virtual charter school.
Yes, sir.
And then the regular charter schools, is it also the same $790?
It's actually their proportionate share of the county appropriation. So if our county appropriation is $2,000 per student, they get the whole $2,000.
All right. So on the second page, then, when you show that jury award and the charter school amount would have been, what, $231,000 and change, is that both virtual and regular charters together in that, or is it?
That would be just the regular charter schools, because the virtual charter school, we've already got what I think is the $790 per child.
Right. So if we took that number and divided by 790,
guess
that's
the number
your
of
best
students
guess
that are
of
going to
what
go.
virtual is.
Correct.
Thank you.
And remember this, we have about 7,000 homeschool students in Union County. And any homeschool student who has never been a Union County public school student, if they elect to go to the statewide virtual charter, that money has to be paid for them also.
I'd also like to add, because sometimes we think a little differently, right, Dr. Ellis, and it clicks. It's important because, like you said, people think that we're asking for this and ask for that. We have the 2.5 per the legislation that's coming, and what this budget is showing how we are proposing to spend it, what we're using it for.
The 2.5, the driver's ed,
Right,
and the 4.9.
right, but I'm referring to the 2.5
Oh, yes,
right
ma'am.
now. And so it's important for everyone to understand that we're explaining where that 2.5 is going. It's not like we're asking for more. So instead of just saying, oh, we need 2.5, this is what we're doing with the money. So that's important, because people have been confused and saying, well, why are you asking for charter money? Why are you asking? We're just showing how we plan on spending. And then we have the next step. If we got the jury award, we do the cost lift. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I know it takes some time to click for me, and I'm sure there's someone else out there that may have needed that clarification.
Sometimes it's hard for us school people, and if it's hard for us, then the lay person, it's confusing as can be.
Dr. Ellis and Mr. Kapinski, question on the disparity in local supplements for our teachers. The teacher bleed, as I call it, older, more seasoned veterans that they're offered a more lucrative supplement, say to go to Rock Hill or whatever. When those teachers are replaced, they typically would be replaced with an entry-level teacher.
Well, this past summer, I met with all of our new teachers. There are between 300 and 400 of them, and I had them stand if they were brand new to the profession, brand new to the county, and I would say it was about a half and half split. But the majority of them are younger, replacing with younger.
So basically, we're not only occurring a seasoned, if you will, deficit based on teachers with longevity, but when we have to infill from these teachers migrating out for better supplements, when we replace that person with a new entry-level teacher, the other side of that double-edged sword is that position is funded by local and federal money. Thus, it increases our expense on the backside. So can you kind of talk about how an increase to supplements, number one, would be a wise investment for teacher retention, and they're certainly worthy of it, but how that investment also would counter further expense in the infill of replacing those personnel?
There is a cost associated with training new teachers, and we are forever and a day training people. We train them up, they leave. We train them up and they leave. And we've not put pencil to paper to quantify that. I know some studies have been done, some research studies, Mr. Stewart, that it is far more efficient use of funds to retain the ones you have than it is to continually train in the pipeline. And by virtue of us hiring new ones, and in a cost-saving effort, Mr. Karpinski routinely puts the higher paid people on the state payroll because it's in positions, not dollar allotments, it's position allotments. And so then on the local, we're paying less, but when you get so many of them, it becomes almost a moot point there. And we've not quantified the number. I could look at some research and give you some national research. I'm not sure that we could pinpoint a number for you because every department has umpteen trainings going on at any one time.
So supplements are not only the right thing to do by teachers to hit target market pay with our surrounding competitors, but it also protects our equity, number one, as far as being able to pay these people from state funds, and B, also the experience factor of these seasoned teachers. It protects that equity as well, right?
I would agree with that statement. Yes,
okay,
sir.
I just wanted to make sure I was hearing that correct. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a couple of questions?
Certainly, Mr. Sides.
Dan, we are in the second and hopefully final year of Senate Bill 355, what I call special legislation that basically dictates last year and this year the operating as well as capital expenditures that the county is required to do, correct?
Yes.
It sunsets June 30th, 2016, I believe.
Okay, so we got one more go around.
This budget cycle.
Yes.
Right, one more go around. So the budget that's been developed here, or shall I say needs budget, is that a fair term, is 95 million. And that exceeds the amount allowed in the the Senate Bill 355, which is last year's baseline plus inflation plus student population growth, which is not close to that figure. Is that correct?
That's correct. This budget proposal, it documents the superintendent's proposed needs. Mm-hmm. And essentially, to come up with this number, we incorporated 3 items that we felt were very critical at this point in time when this was put together. And that included Sessions Law 214, which is House Bill, the one you're talking about, mm-hmm. for about 2.5 million. It also incorporates the jury award of 4.9. Mm-hmm. And then it also includes the driver ed funding that the state's dumping onto the local, the county expenses in our mind. But like Dr. Ellis said, I think she realizes that the county shouldn't have to pay for that driver ed bill.
Right.
Now, the Board of Education, when it becomes their budget, they're going to have to make a decision. Do we ask for our needs and expect to live with Sessions Bill 214-8.
May I break in
That's-
here just for a moment and remind this board that many of us that have been on this board and boards previous to this have learned a very important lesson by what this bill says and what jury award said and what the appeals court said. And they all said the same thing. And even state law requires boards to request their needs, not to bargain for those needs, not to take away from those needs. Request your needs, because if you don't request your needs, once you've passed that year window of requesting those needs, they are no longer needs according to the court because you haven't requested them. And according to session law. So what we need to do is be sure, and I was going to ask the superintendent, if this budget contains all our needs, because that's the most important question we can ask the superintendent and staff. Does this budget contain our needs? Not our fluff, not our want list, but our needs.
I understand our needs, but I'm just struggling with how this is, when it gets to real world, how this is reconciled with Senate Bill 355, because we can have our needs and we go to the county and they say, well, I'm sure sorry about your needs, but the law says this is what you're going to get. And so this is what we're going to pay you.
The law says at least. It doesn't say that is what, it says at least.
So that's the minimum we can, so we have to justify to them the difference, whatever we ask over.
That's right.
Well, out of due respect for our contemporaries on the Board of County Commissioners, one thing that we've learned over the past 2 years is previous boards felt that needs had not been communicated. Although studies had been done, that sort of thing, the needs weren't physically laid out before them for due consideration. And that's one thing through the working group, as well as the whole evolution we've undergone in the past 2 years, I think is one of the golden lessons, as the chair alluded to. We've got to lay it out there. That statutorily is our charge as the Board of Education. As to the funding mechanism, that is the Board of Commissioners' charge. But never again, at least while I sit on this board, I want to get in a situation where we place the county commissioners in a position of not knowing what the situation is, because it's like the roof situation. Once they came to grips with what the situation was, they ponied up, and it didn't take the jury award to do it. They did it voluntarily. So I think this is part of the line of communication the chair alludes to, that we need to communicate our needs clearly and make sure that they're aware of.
And you don't feel like that's been done in the past? Effectively, obviously.
I think that was a bone of contention that was raised through the lawsuit. I think that there was a perfect storm of circumstances that got us to where we had roofs that were leaking. We had handicapped children that were being carried into restrooms, that sort of thing. And we had people that held the purse strings, the county commissioner, saying, well, we didn't know. So I think we would be amiss, and I think we would be derelict in our duty if we allowed any of these things that we see as a bona fide need not to be clearly identified at this juncture going into the budget process and clearly articulated as to why we justify these needs. Now, how they pursue the funding or what their prerogative is in meeting our needs, that is their board's germane authority.
So that's basically their baseline. That laid out in Senate Bill 355, that's the minimum they've got to give us.
That's correct. The law
And
says at
we
least.
make our case for what else we need, driver's ed, supplements, everything else.
Yes, sir.
And then we, take our best shot at what we can get. And that's the way this process is going
And that's,
to
if
play
you
out.
don't ask for it, you'll never get it.
Well, yeah.
And you have to express the needs.
Are there any other comments?
I'll move on to the capital outlay then, and this is even more of a unknown at this point. We're going to, the working group, the county members, as well as the Board of Education members are going to meet tomorrow. And that's why you see a lot of to be determines on this at this point. Essentially, the working group has done a lot of work, and I think they're at a point where they're going to know our needs in the capital realm of things, and we're going to put those needs on this proposal. And then, as Mr. Stewart said, it'll be up to the county to decide how to fund that. And that's the main topic of tomorrow's meeting is, well, what are the possibilities of how to fund what the board's needs are, is my understanding of it in simple terms. So once we get information from the working group, as well as it goes to the board facilities committee, we'll have those numbers ready for the next meeting of the Board of Education Finance Committee, which is scheduled for the 28th of this month.
And let me be real upfront about this. Mr. Yates, in presentations dating back to the end of January 2014, I believe, and you can go look at them online, and this is a positive, this is not a negative at all, has built in approximately $20 million a year for the school board for capital, because they realized, I think they learned some things, as did this, I did, I won't speak for any board member. I think everybody learned things through the trial. And
Are you saying that we're not capable of learning?
I did not say that. I'll just speak for me. I'm sure everyone learned a tremendous amount. But the fact that approximate 20 million came up that long ago told me that they recognized in the capital area that the school system had that kind of needs. We've still got, what, Mike, another $12 million worth of roofing that's got to go on. Excuse me.
So, quick question, Mr. Kopinski. Will I noticed you talk about the CFS studies and everything. Will the CCEP then be integrated into this capital outlay portion of the budgets?
Yes, sir. In fact, I think what we're going to recommend to the Board Finance Committee, and we'll work with the Board Facilities Committee as well, we're going to say, this reference to the jury award needs to go away. I mean, there's no sense in, at the time we wrote it, that decision wasn't made. Now that it has been made, the needs didn't go away. They still exist. But essentially, yes, we're going to put together the needs for capital, which is based on the work that the working group's doing, as well as the Board of Education ultimately, because it ends up being, it goes through committees, but ultimately the Board of Education will approve the whole capital budget as well as the current expense budget. But essentially, that's when the needs will be put on the page so that the commissioners know what the board's needs are.
And every other year until this year, you would have had numbers on the page right now. But out of deference to the work that the working group has done, and I think it's made tremendous strides, that's why it's TBD, that it will obviously go on there before you approve your budget. But knowing that it's going to be somewhere around 19.7 million, that's what the legislation says, and that's what Mr. Yates has said for a good while now, that knowing the school needs. And that's the first time it's never not been on there, to my knowledge. But if we were to put a number on there, then that sort of negates some of the working group. And we wanted to give respect to what the working group is doing, I guess is the best way to say it.
Well, for Mr. Martin's benefit, bring him up to speed. The CCEP basically will take the place of the CFS Comprehensive Facilities Study, the Comprehensive Facilities Plan, and every other financial acronym involving capital at this point. It's basically a consolidation. So we'll have one document that's kind of been a running chuckle with the working group, so we don't have to discuss 5 different acronyms when we start talking about capital needs. So basically, the CCEP will be the working document moving forward that we will address capital through.
And that also represents needs, that we need to make sure that we are, the superintendent and then the board is charged with making known the school system's needs.
And Dr. Ellis, one other thing to close, as far as the CCEP is concerned, the categorization jury award was strictly nomenclature to address how those needs were identified. The fact that they'll no longer necessarily be considered a jury award doesn't change the need. It'll just be recategorized, but those needs will stand as part of the CCEP.
Nothing was in there that was not a need. Whatever title it had on it, it was a need. And so certainly, Mike, would you like to address that?
Yes, ma'am. As you know, we started out with approximately 1,700 and some change projects, and the Facilities Committee and the Board of Education whittled those down to approximately 850 needs. But to answer your question, it is Mr. Kropinski and Mr. Yates and staff have been working together. It is our full intention to work within the session law of that approximately $20 million. As you know, we have presented that plan to the working group over an 8-year period at approximately $20 million per year to meet the needs that have been identified. And we have been very open and honest with that plan.
Partially meet.
Correct. In regards to what's on the operations side in regards to their pay-go funds, not other large brick and mortar projects fall under a different category, but and we plan to discuss that tomorrow at the working group session.
I'd like to just make a clarification on a statement Mr. Sides made earlier regarding the delta from the base you were talking about, the sessions law base, that from the Finance Committee perspective, we're not looking to justify the delta. It sounded like you were saying that everything beyond the sessions law we had to justify. I believe we go through justifying everything, and we bring the full board will vote on a budget, not justifying a particular portion that happens to be beyond sessions law. We justify the whole budget. I just want to make sure that was clear.
And
Thank you, Mr. Kropinski.
Yeah, that's a critical point to acknowledge. Bottom line is it's the Board of Education budget. Periodically throughout the year, the Board of Education makes a budget amendments and transfers as they did tonight. And it's your budget, and it's telling us, we make recommendations to the board how we need to have this money budgeted. You all approve every aspect of the budget, and we carry it out. And like you said, the budget will in fact be presented in every aspect to include, it'll be in a state uniform budget format, which will show our state dollars, our local dollars in significant detail, our federal dollars, our child nutrition, our after-school program. Every dollar that we have will be in the uniform budget for the county to peruse, and they have and get our information from us monthly. So it's a good point to be made that it's not just this little portion that we're talking about. We're talking about the whole budget for current expense as it relates to the request to the commissioners.
Board members have any questions? I believe Mr. Karpinski's presentation is concluded. The budget is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to take a 4 or 5 minute break right now. And then we'll resume with the technology update. keep them up late tonight.
Have you got it ready? You got it ready? Corey? Thank
Here's
you.
the
You better drive it. You just better drive it.
You never forward.
I know.
We're going to make the joke, but we've got a presentation about else that
Never follows it.
Have we got everybody back?
All board members.
Number 15, the technology update. Dr. Webb and I assume Dr. Ellis.
Yes, and we're not going to take 60 minutes. Michelle set the timer for 30.
Thank God. Give them 3 minutes. They're not speaking for a group.
I'm serious, or let me know when it's 25 because we're not going to go past 30. Yeah. I appeared before the board, the then board, 3 years ago as a new superintendent and asked you to go along with us on a journey for digitization for our children. I asked you to continue on the journey that we started in 2008. Mike and I were teachers at the same time, APs and principals at the same time, and have worked together for 25 years.
Too long to count.
Too long to count. But we started in 2008 on this journey knowing that digital age was upon us and that we needed to make sure we were securing the children's future. And 3 years ago, the board unanimously voted to let us run as we saw fit with board approval to make sure that our children had what they needed when they got ready to go into college. Because some colleges, and I think Wake Forest is one of the first in the United States to provide laptops for the students as part of their entrance into college. So we have talked about a lot of things and we've done a lot of things, and we want to give you just a little blip. I think 2 or 3 of you have said, I know you've done presentations. What are you doing? You know, please explain to us what you're doing. So this is our attempt to very briefly talk with you about it. Everything we talk about is within the framework of my size fits me, knowing that different children have different needs. And are we meeting 100% the needs of all children? No, but are we trying? Yes. You can look at the cartoon. And why should my size fit me? Well, I'll take the same exam and everybody climb the tree. Now that's one happy monkey, but if I'm the goldfish, I'm going, probably not going to happen. And a close second would be the seal and the penguin. So there is a reason that we believe that we should have something for everyone. Mike, you want to talk about this?
And I will share with you that Mr. Guzman serves on the Tech Council representing the Board of Education, and some of this you're well aware of and have taken many of this, that you've been with us through the journey. Where we are, we're often asked, give us the recipe, help school systems make their access model or one-to-one, whatever they're calling their blended learning, help make it successful. What they're finding across the nation is that many school systems dive into a blended learning approach, but they lack the ability to sustain the one-to-one program. What is that secret sauce in Union County Public Schools that enables us to sustain our one-to-one access model? And where we are, we're going to show you kind of a matrix that we kind of follow. It's our logic model for Union County. And we've shared this with any group that asks us. We have several school systems that contact us via phone. I have superintendents that contact asking, they're getting ready to discuss technology for budget. You know, how's Union County doing this? And we have many school systems visit us to visit our schools and see what's taking place in the actual classroom.
As a matter of fact, this Thursday, we have a group of superintendents and chief technology officers from across the Southeast that we're hosting for a one-day symposium on the one-to-one, the blended model and sustainability.
Correct. What I want to share with you is where we've gone through our model. Where we are today is dealing with what we call the classroom, and what it is looking at the third teacher. We believe that our classrooms have as much impact in enabling the teacher to do the things that he or she needs the flexibility to do. The classrooms that we're getting ready to, as we work with the county and doing repairs and renovations, and as we look at moving forward, do we really want to build the same classroom that we sat in? Do we still want to sit at the same desk? We are not providing the flexibility and the adaptability that our teachers and our administrators need in our facilities, because the classroom that's a third grade classroom today may not be a third grade classroom next year. So Malguzzi's talks about that third teacher.
I have 4 grandchildren, and each of my grandchildren, when they turn 2, I gave them, they call them iPads. I gave them an iPad, touch screen. And if a 2-year-old can learn their alphabet and to count to 10 and all these kinds of things, and they're not, I'd like to think they're brilliant, but they're normal kids. If they can do that, then why are we not doing it for the children of Union County Public Schools? Here's the logic model that we started working on in 2008, and we've done multiple presentations on each one of these. We're just hitting the high spots for you now. At the top of it, you start with consistent leadership. Jerry Thomas was our superintendent from 2000 through 2005, then Ed Davis 2005 to 12, and then me. Ed trained under Jerry, I trained under Ed. We started this when Mike and I started talking about it when Mike was still a principal at Monroe High School and I was an assistant superintendent, and we carried it on through, like I said, for 8 years. And the goal has been consistently the same: to do right by children, knowing that you can see just a little bit around the corner and around the curve. And I'm glad we did, because now it is mandated in North Carolina law that by 2017, every test will be online and that there will be no textbooks bought. And so we got dinged in the court case for the county commissioners. Why did we need to buy computers for children? Why did we need to buy Chromebooks for children? Because most every one of these children, that is the way of the future of learning. The state's given us this much, well, $15 a child for textbooks. When a textbook costs between $200 and $300, and we can buy a Chromebook for that and digitize the learning, we're in a lot better situation. Our children then can compete, and the world is bigger than Union County. The world does not end at the Union County borders. It goes all the way around the world in multiple countries, and our children have to be competitive there. So one thing we've talked about is no matter who is in what position, there's got to be consistent leadership. The board has changed over the years, but the leadership charge at the board level has remained the same. Do the right thing by children and have them ready for the next step. And we believe the next step is to be able to solve problems. Consistent leadership, that goes at the principal level, that goes back to the teacher situation, that we're trying to hold on to our teachers, and that the leadership continues to have the vision of where we need to go for children.
As we speak to various districts, we point out that you have to address and consider each one of these areas at all times. A lot of the districts talk about that, as Dr. L said, the leadership changes. The superintendent there 2-3 years, they had this idea for the vision for their one-to-one access model. Honest truth, we were speaking with a system, and the superintendent came in and said, I want to be one-to-one in 6 months. One-to-one in 6 months.
And it was an epic fail, and there are over 200,000 students in that school district. Epic fail in the state of Florida.
No one took the time to do an audit on their infrastructure to see, one, whether or not they could support a one-to-one. They didn't do a pulse check with their administration to see and establish a vision for their one-to-one.
They didn't train their teachers, and if a teacher is not trained, they can't impart. And if a teacher gets a piece of technology and it doesn't work the first time, oh, I'll try the second time. If it doesn't work the second time, I'm gonna put it out in the middle of the road and let the car run over it as it comes down. It's got to work.
Again, you need each one of these. You have to address each one of them. We then move to the human capital side of that for Union County. Again, the leadership, the vision was established with the Board of Education and right on down through the principals and our educators. The human capital piece that we addressed, when we started this, I remember Dr. Ellis and I sitting in Kevin Plu's living room with the middle school principals in his living room, discussing about a one-to-one program and what would be their concerns. And as Dr. Ellis shared with you, if that device doesn't work once, the teacher will, okay, we'll try it a second time. If it doesn't work the second time, it becomes a $300 and change paperweight, because they're not going to give you a third or a fourth attempt. So at that point in time, our middle school principals believed that this was the direction that we needed to go in, and they committed an ADM position for an engineer to be on site at each and every one of our middle schools, so that if a teacher had a concern or an administrator had issues that a teacher had brought to their attention, they were able to address it immediately. When we rolled from our middle school to our high school with the technology, guess what? Our middle school leaders were able to share with the principals that one of the key components that they must consider is having an engineer in their high schools, because it works. The technology has to work. So our high school principal said, absolutely, this is our commitment. That's their skin in the game.
And in addition to that, all the principals, I said, if we're going to do this, we can't afford these computers. There is no way we can just afford them. We're going to have to redivide our assets. We're going to have to reallocate, rearrange the dishes. So each principal stood in a vote, and it was all 53 of them standing, and nobody held a gun to their head. And they said by standing that they were willing to reappropriate 20% of their 061 money. That's instructional materials, supplies, and equipment. They don't have to buy as much paper now. They don't have to do other things. It can go towards it. So we're on a refresh cycle with machines that we can refresh every 5 years. As a matter of fact, you guys just approved a couple months ago, the 3.5 machines. So human capital, every principal has skin in the game. Every teacher has skin in the game, because without skin in the game, people will go to casting stones and casting dispersions. But if you own it, you're going to try to make it work.
We also we talked about keeping the machines running. Well, let's talk about the teacher and how they build those blended learning lessons. We also brought in what we call ITFs, or instructional technology facilitators. The instructional technology facilitators work with our teachers and our administrators in staff development, building technology-rich or blended learning lessons. They also, you talk about breaking down silos, they work with Dr. Jones's team, the curriculum coordinators, so that when they go in to work with the administration, it's a triage. It's the support that they need to make sure that it's successful. If you remember the board meeting at Stallings Elementary, the technology test that the kids played with you, you saw the technology utilized here, folks, it's not going away. So our human capital is not only in our engineers, but it's also on the instructional side as well. The next one is expandable infrastructure. Now, I'm going to joke Mr. Collins just a little bit, because Mr. Collins was part of my headache back in 2009 when Dr. Davis came to me and said, I want you in charge of technology now, Dr. Webb. Initially, I just handled the buildings and operations side. He said, I want you to look at that. At that point in time, we could barely, when I went in with the team and tried to assess where we were, we could barely keep the internet up and running. That's what teachers thought technology was at the time, the internet. Am I getting email? Well, Mr. Collins had helped pull a lot of that wire from on a Saturday or during the week at nights, dropping drops at the ceiling and just running wires. And our data center, the fire marshal should have shut us down because you couldn't even get in to fix a server because you didn't know where it plugged into. So we had issues that we had to deal with the infrastructure before you even looked at a device. Again, human capital before we selected a device, made sure that the infrastructure, not only the heartbeat or the core of our data center, could support what we were going to do for the next 10 years, not tomorrow, not next year, but for 10 years when we started this. And we went out and assessed every data closet at every school and brought those up to speed. I'm an old high school principal by trade. To me, it was a uniform rotation basis. We set over the next 5 years how we would refresh the infrastructure at those schools, and we did it in 4.
And part of that was the usage of E-rate money, that's federal money that we could access, and we paid 10 cents on the dollar. And so the majority of that money came from E-rate money. It was also from money appropriated from the local current expense portion of our budget.
Correct. And I am proud to say that now we operate on the industry standard of what was referred to as 5 nines. Our system, whether that's instructional or email, whatever it may be, operates 99.999% of the time. That's the same standard that Google has, the 5 nines.
And when it doesn't work, we hear about it in stereo because appreciated, expected, and demanded. And we are very much at the demanded level.
At this point in time, we decided to select a device. Again, we have done the other 3 boxes. We then brought in tier 1 companies, negotiated with a device. Once we had selected a device, we started the professional development. Our teachers received at that initial group about 36 days of professional development. That wasn't out of the classroom. That was building lessons and working inside their classrooms. And today we still provide that professional development through our ITFs, through our strategic plan, our technology plan that we have that you all have approved as the Board of Education. And we follow that at the school level. That takes us to where we are now with our learning spaces. That's what we're about, instruction, right? It took us that long to get to the learning spaces because we weren't ready for this in 2009. We didn't want to be the school system that the superintendent walked in and said 6 months, be 1-to-1, and the devices sat in the box for 2 years. Guess what happens in that 2 years? The warranties are running out. Teachers are wondering what's going on. There's been a commitment by either a bond or by the county commissioners or by the school systems to fund those. And how do you explain that to the stakeholders and to the taxpayers?
And the most important part for children, and you see learners in the middle, children are learners, but also teachers are learners, and principals are learners, and parents are learners. So we're talking about the whole spectrum there, but we're at learning spaces now. And anytime we talk to someone, we found vendors who are very interested in, we'll sign non-disclosure forms, and then they'll have us test their products. And we're working with 8 or 9 different companies in what we call our classrooms of the future. And we want to show you, or classrooms of tomorrow, we want to show you some of that. Now, right now we have 12 of the classrooms, and they're set up in different schools at different levels. Through the technology committee, we've identified technology superstar teachers. 12 now, we'll have 24 come August and 36 come January, and it's going to bleed out like that. We can't do it all. It's just sort of like it took us 6 years to get to where we are now. We are making plans for the future. And as additions are made or new buildings are built, this is what the standard will be for these new spaces. And we want to take you through some of the things and some of the equipment that we've been fortunate enough for companies to allow us to test is not even on the market yet. And we have to sign paperwork that we won't even talk about it because it's not gone to market yet. So we have received several $100,000 worth of stuff that they want us to test, different companies. And we're quite fortunate in that. I've been told by multiple people in multiple places that Union County Public Schools is in the top 5% in the United States with regard to where we are with forward thinking for our children and preparing them for the future. And you don't, when you're in Union County, it's real easy to cast stones and say, that's just normal, we do this. When you go out and you look around, what we do is not normal. And I'm not talking about Mary Ellis. I'm talking about the kids. I'm talking about the teachers. I'm talking about the principals. I'm talking about all of us. It is really amazing when you look at other school systems and the lack of things that we're doing that are not occurring other places. Now, are we satisfied? Absolutely not. There is so much more to do. Let's talk about these learning spaces, Mike.
It's very important for you to understand the technology piece should be agnostic. It shouldn't matter if it's a Mondo board, it shouldn't matter if it's a smart board, Panasonic, Clear Touch, whatever it may be. It's not about the technology. It is about the instruction and the child and how they obtain that instruction and the flexibility at which the teacher can utilize those tools.
You only got 7 minutes, you better hurry.
We will make that 7-minute deadline. This room here happens to be set up with the Mondo equipment. We pilot different equipment for different rooms because we want to make sure we're making sound decisions with the dollars that we're fortunate and blessed to get from our county commissioners. So this room here, you can see the modular furniture. It has the ability for the teacher to change that lesson within a matter of minutes, that whole configuration. They raise, they lower, they can change the configurations. You can see the soft seating in the far right. You see the BenQs that are sitting beside. All of those are touch screens. The goal is, as your children are working on the device on their computer individually, they're sitting around that table where that BenQ is. They can then throw it onto the BenQ, work on it collaboratively within that group of 4, 5, 3, however the teacher has it configured. And then she wants that, love what you're doing, throw it onto the large monitor and share that whole class.
And there you don't have the problem of children not being on task, the time on task. Discipline decreases, attendance increases, and grades increase. And look at your children. Look at every child you know. Are they not hooked to some kind of device? And if we go back to where we were when I was in school in rows, and that's all you do is the teacher is the sage on the stage, we've lost children. Those days are gone by for children. They are not going to respect that kind of learning. It's going to have to be, we're going to have to meet them where they are. People can say this is newfangled and it's fancy and you shouldn't be doing it. The bottom line is the children are already there. We adults continually play catch up with where the children already live. And
you can see again the modular furniture. Look on the right, we call that share wall. It's all writing. So if you've got the little bits, they can write all the way down on the floor up to whatever the teacher may be doing or the other projects.
This is really neat. It's at Piedmont Middle School in Lisa Goodman's class. And there are 3 engineers there, and they designed and built, they were the lead engineers for the Mars rover mission that just recently launched. And the students you see on either side of the TV screen, questions. These are questions the students had studied a unit and they Skyped in with these engineers and had a Q&A with the engineers about what they've done. And to see a female engineer sitting there, one of the little girls asked the question, said, how did you get interested in this? Because we're having trouble getting females interested in STEMs. So even that part of it was, and there is another one, and you can just look at the little fella that's happy about what they've done. And that's just another example of one of the pieces of equipment on which they can share. There's the furniture. You see the plug-in stations on the side where you can charge your computer or whatnot. And the furniture's modular. You can move it. I've gone into Lisa's classroom several times, and she'll have it configured one way one day, and during the middle of the class, she'll say, okay, let's go to configuration 2. They'll redo it. Some days on her big screen television, she's got a fireplace. If it's the winter time, she may have a ski scene. Whatever it is that they come in and they know how to configure the furniture based on what they're going to do that day.
We continually gather information from our teachers. You want me to tell you what the piece of furniture they said, Dr. Webb, when you ordered furniture for the next 12 classrooms, you want me to tell you the one piece they said they don't need anymore? The teacher desk. They said, we don't use it. And again, we talked about the share wall. You can see the kids, how they're utilizing it. This is some of our rock stars. Again, we talked about the teachers are in through the first pilot phase. Those 12 will help train and continue staff development with the next 12. That's taking place now. Their classrooms will be ready for them. The next cohort of teachers will be ready for them in June. And then the principals select, working with, we have Andrea Seville and Brady Thomas that help oversee this project, looking at the various criteria. They select the teachers. They have to be willing to participate in it. It is their choice because they have to be willing to think differently in their classroom. It is about transformation of the learning, not the technology, moving towards project-based learning.
And this has been really hard for some of these teachers. We didn't pick just the best teachers with technology. We picked teachers who wanted to learn. And there's a math teacher in there that she is top-notch, top flight, but it has really been a struggle. Now she's gotten her sea legs now, and is really sailing with it. But I'm not presenting to you that this is easy for everybody. I think it is for some, it's not for others.
I shared with the elementary principals today in the meeting, it is in our near future. And I'm not saying it's next year, and I'm not saying it's 2 years from now, but it's in our near future where that when age appropriate, that students and teachers will sit together and build lessons together. That will be in their near future. What do we do when we look at this staff development? We call it the SAMR. You're trying to move from substitution, which is in that enhancement and augmentation, to modification and redefinition.
Last thing on the logic model is anytime access. We developed a couple years ago Union County Virtual School, and necessity is the mother of invention. We were paying the North Carolina Virtual Public School the equivalent of 11 teaching positions. And I'm going, that's crazy. Let's pay our own teachers the extra money instead of paying them. So we developed classes. I think we have 22 classes, John, 21 or 22 classes. We're in the process right now of developing every OCS class. That's occupational course of study. That's for children who really struggle with their learning. This past year, we had to pay North Carolina Virtual over $100,000 for students for OCS classes. And you say, well, why are you doing that? Because the state has changed the way they certify exceptional EC teachers. And if I'm an EC teacher, I need to be certified in reading and math and science and social studies, or I can only teach one of those. And we don't have, and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, we don't have teachers who are interested in 4 different kinds of certification like that. We have precious few of those. So what we decided we would do a few years ago is we developed these classes and we gave them to North Carolina Virtual. Is our time up? Well, I'm gonna take some more.
I'm glad that buzzed while she was speaking.
Thank you. We gave them to North Carolina Virtual. The leadership has changed, and now they're charging us for the classes. And I'm going, are you kidding me? So we're off to the races again. We're developing our own, and we think that will save us $100,000 there a year, plus part of the 11 teaching positions. And the goal, folks, the goal is for children to have anywhere, anytime access. If they want to do their math lesson at 3 o'clock in the morning, I have no trouble with that. I want it to be within the next couple of years that if I don't want to go to a brick and mortar school, I shouldn't have to go there after I've met certain criteria. If my size truly fits me, then I ought to be able to have anywhere, anytime access. And I can't tell you what company, but we're really pumped because we have a phone provider company coming in next week.
Yes,
Next
week of the
week.
20th.
Because we've told them the first one of you that can crack the anywhere, anytime access model is going to be gajillionaires. Because everybody in the world wants their children to be able to learn anywhere. Children in poverty ought to have access to the internet at home. And we had a group down to about $7. But $7 is $7. We can't afford it for every child. So we're taking another whack at that because the goal is anytime a child wants to learn, did you hear me? A child wants to learn, they ought to have the privilege of being allowed to learn. And while some folks say, Mary Ellis, your head's in the sky, this is pie in the sky, I submit to you, no, it's not. It is where our children and our grandchildren are going to be. And shame on us if we do not continue to seek out what is best for our children. And the best children in the world are the children of Union County Public Schools, and maybe some in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, because that's where my grandbabies might live, some of them, okay? I'll just tell you.
The only thing I would add in a few seconds would be the following.
You don't have time's up, Mike.
We reversed engineered the virtual school. So we started with the seniors back because we wanted to make sure that we were also could be used as a platform to help with graduation and recovery of credits. We will in about a year and a half left on our schedule. We logic modeled it all out and with the courses needed. We're a year and a half away from a student being able to complete their entire graduation list online. So at some point in time, the Board of Education will have to address, once we can offer that full regiment, do you want to offer up to homeschool students at a price or whatever? So there's choices that the Tech Council, and we've had those discussions, at some point in time may bring to the superintendent, to the Board of Education. And the last thing with the anytime access, it's not a pie in the sky. The vendor knows that we're looking for internet access in our rural areas and for our children of poverty. And it's the president of North America for a tier 1 company that's coming to meet with us because they believe in what we're doing. And also I think they know there's a financial gain in that at some point in time for them as well. But the first and foremost, for that level to come and meet, they have to believe in what your vision and what you're trying to accomplish for the children.
Folks, I've been called a lot of things. My husband calls me Mary. But I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that Union County Public Schools is on the right track for children. Not for me or him or any one of you, but for our children. And that's what each of our charge is. Your board members, you're elected to be your charge. It's been my charge and my passion for 36 years. So I thank you for the time, and we'll address any questions you have if we can.
Yeah, I have one question, and it's awesome. I love the modular classrooms, and we've spoken about that for a few seconds. And I had 2 questions. One was the Wi-Fi access, because I think that's a huge gap that we have
The last great divide.
that we have to address that. But my other question is if you just address for 30 seconds, catch up. How do we address the catch up between the students who grow up and use digital all the time and just are used to swiping and clicking and pointing, and the students who don't use it all the time, don't have it at home all the time, and catching them up and making sure they don't fall behind if they're only using it in the classroom?
I will tell you, we don't see a great, huge disparity there because children living in poverty have smartphones. I'm going to tell you, a lot of it. And they have it, they can carry it home with them. And in middle school, we've had it now, this is the 6th year in middle school.
Correct. Ours is a take-home model for our secondary schools, our middle and high schools. And because we're a Google Apps school system, they're able to download those projects, work on them at home, and as soon as they come back to school, it uploads to the system. So they still have some access to what we're working on in the classroom. What the divide is when the teacher may say, go home and try to research on the internet, or they're doing a project and they're trying to get some different resources or sources.
Back in the day in high school, we did keyboarding. Then it got moved to 8th grade and middle school, and then it got moved to elementary school. And now keyboarding is almost a natural, you have to work on it some, but you find it almost a natural thing for children. They are the digital natives.
So you're not seeing a catch-up issue from kids going from elementary to middle and then having to really address that from kids who at 5 or 6 have an iPad and other kids that don't? Okay.
I have just a couple questions. Would it be possible for you to transmit a list of these classrooms so that we could go visit, see it firsthand?
Absolutely.
Be glad to get that out.
The second thing is, one of the challenges I've had with my young children, my youngest is in the 2nd grade, is during the summer. Now, he loves his tablet, but I have the hardest time finding any kind of educational applications that are worth a flip, or having access to anything that he can do on during school year. And then you have the summer and you're kind of getting withdrawals because you don't have access to anything. I don't know if you can partner with some of the companies that put together the software to do applications, or from a tablet, from a computer, but to have access during the summer just to kind of keep it going. Especially he's in 2nd grade and he loves playing on the thing. If you can keep him engaged in that, he's coming up on the 3rd year where he's going to, hopefully when implementation is fulfilled, he's going to get it one-on-one in the classroom. And then the summer of after his 3rd year, he's going to be back to his tablet and whatever those silly games are he plays with that has no value.
It's a great question, Mr. Sides. One of the things that the state of North Carolina is working on is what we call an LMS, or a learning management system, which children have access to as well as teachers. So they'll be able to tunnel in once it's up and running in Union County, whether that's Open Class or Moodle, whichever, that will be unfolded this summer. So once that's open, our kids will be able to turn in and utilize it in the summer. Many teachers still stay in contact with the children and are doing different projects through the summer. So that will be a possibility for them.
Yeah, if there could be some kind of summer curriculum, it doesn't have to be each teacher doing it, but like if there was one that everybody could
Dr. Jones can help you with that. We have just spent 2 months vetting digital curricula, trying to find age-appropriate things in different subjects. And so I think John can provide anyone interested with some kind of list of different sites or websites or apps that we have vetted. But that's not something, you know, when you send something out for a summer reading list and I don't appreciate it and then expect it, I don't want anybody to think we're going to send home summer digital stuff that you've got to do. But certainly, Dr. Jones, if you'll make a note and get him some of that, let him preview some of that, look at it.
Especially at that age, you got to mix it in with something fun. I mean, I'm not trying to give my kid home, 2 hours worth of homework every day during the summer, but just to keep him in the mode of doing a little, keeping him engaged.
Gamification and different things through that.
No, exactly. You're just a big old meanie daddy.
I would like to give the opportunity to speak if you have some comments that you would like to add.
I'm fortunate enough to be on the Tech Council, so I get to be part of a fantastic group of principals and our staff who's very forward-looking, and it's exciting to be looking that far down the road and how we can make education and the classroom so much more exciting for our students. One thing that I do have to ask, and I know that it's a small group right now with going from 12 to 24 to 36, but the principals and the teachers that want to be part of these new learning environments, I would think, and I said you may not have the data on this yet, but I would think that has to play a factor in long-term teacher retention, because they aren't going to find this necessarily across the border. And I think a teacher or a principal working in an environment like that means something.
And we're finding it infectious. Teachers are going to their principals. What do I need to do to participate in this type of program? So it is infectious. And what we will do is we will be creating an army of these. Again, think of just when we do the additions to Walter Bickett Elementary, the number of classrooms there. If we're going to do it, we have the data. We know what those classrooms should look like. We know what the product should be. And we're updating. And so quickly you will see 24, 48. Next thing you know, you have 148. And that's when you're truly having transformation taking place in Union County in that class.
And this can happen in older schools as well as it can in newer wings. Let's don't mistake that you got to be in a new school to have this. It can, as evidenced by the 1975 version Piedmont Middle, it can go there as well as it can go in a newer school.
We have it at East Elementary. We have it at Marshville Elementary. So, and we have it at Porter Ridge Middle and High. So we run the gamut. It's, but we beta test everything. I mean, it's in our sandbox. Our principals and our teachers are going to beat it up before we put it out to our teachers, because it's got to be able to take that stress in the classroom.
Other questions?
I thought of one last question, just sitting here in the library. Is there ever, do you foresee a time on down the road where we could digitize our library, like a massive Kindle library, and we can access that?
I see a time when the library will become a different animal, that the books may be digitized. Now, there are some people who still like the feel of books. I'm an English teacher, and I love to read a book. I read online also, but I don't think there will ever be a place for books to go away totally. But I do see utilizing the space differently. It becomes more of a research hub as opposed to a warehouse hub. What we're looking at is these modules to go in this research hub / library to foster, because children have got to graduate being able to solve problems. We don't know what the jobs are, but I guarantee you they will entail problems. And so that will be part and parcel of it. So yes, I do see a shift. Do I think the shift is going to happen tonight? No, I think it will happen over time. But as we renovate media areas or build additions or whatever, then we will start heading that way.
The data looks, it's almost like an octopus. You will see the far-reaching tentacles of the media center, where it's now going out and touching all the classrooms versus the classrooms coming into the media center. So again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to email me. Mr. Guzman does a phenomenal job representing the Board of Education, or reach out to Mr. Guzman.
I just want to say one final thing to the board, and is that earlier, I think Dr. Ellis mentioned that Union County is in the top 5% in the country, 5 to 10%. And while that's great for us to be able to say that, I think we have to keep in mind that it opens up doors of opportunity for the leading technology companies to want to prototype certain products. And they're not going to go to a school system that doesn't have the infrastructure for it. And because we do, I think those opportunities really benefit Union County Public Schools. So as hard as it might be to stay on that forefront, it's always a challenge to be in the top. I think it's something this board and future boards need to consider strongly if we want to find those doors of opportunity remaining open to us. Thank you, Dr. Webb.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments by the board? I think it's always an eye-opener to me to see two people that I've known for a long time in superintendent's positions stand up before us and become wide-eyed teachers again. And that's what I watched, that transformation between the two of you. Thank you. We now need to move to elementary and middle school curriculum guides. Dr. Jones, Ms. Crawford, and Dr. Healy, please.
Good evening, Board of Education members. We present 3 curriculum guides to you yearly for approval. You have already approved our high school program of studies, and we're in the process of registering for the upcoming year. So we give to you and have sent to you from the curriculum committee the elementary and the middle school programs of curriculum. This provides the framework and explanation to parents regarding what we offer within the standards of the state, as well as qualities and attributes from the elementary and middle school programming. You have received text copies. The graphics as well as the pictures are updated yearly. Of course, we're blessed with a tremendous graphics department within our communications division, and
that's a one-person graphics department. Let's don't talk about that's huge in size, right, Arthur? There you go.
It is one desk, one computer, one person. That is correct. But they actually, once we get the text copy approved from the Board of Education, then they certainly put the finishing touches on those documents. The curriculum committee, in review of these documents, did ask that we go back and put the new grading scale that will be in effect for grades 3 through 8 in the upcoming year. And we did that for next year, as you have approved the 10-point grading scale for grades 3 through 12. That is reflective in the middle school and the elementary guide, particularly that when I say elementary, the guides are divided between the primary, K2, and the intermediate, 3 through 5. Additionally, just as you probably are aware, the standards basically remain the same. The standards, of course, are under Common Core standards are under review in North Carolina at this time. We do not change until the State Board of Education tells us there will be changes, and they're continuing in that process. I think their deadline to finish that is around December of this year, and then they'll go into communicating. But we still are under the current standards, so there haven't been a lot of changes or adjustments. But we did present these documents to you through the curriculum committee, and I certainly can answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions or comments? And this includes the correction you made?
Yes, sir. And thank you very much. Of course, you received a correction on the middle school book this afternoon, which we needed to update the names of our principals, our administrators, and our board members. So we did send you an update today on that last page with the change on the names. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the elementary and middle school curriculum guidelines. And this does come out of curriculum, so it does not need a second.
Thank you, Ms. Helms. Any questions before we vote? All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none? Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Thank you very much.
And Ms. Crawford and Dr. Healy, who I missed somewhere along the way. Number 18, policies for review. Ms. Morris.
Yes,
Dr.
good evening.
Jones.
I know he snuck away. Oh, here it comes. We have one policy for your review tonight, and that is 4-6 Administration of Medicines. This has been to the Policy Committee, and they have approved for it to come before you for review. Any questions on that policy?
Questions, comments, changes, suggestions? Seeing none?
Okay.
We'll move right along.
Policies for approval. All right, the first policy for your approval is 2-50 Settlement of Claims. This comes as part of your regular review. It has gone to Policy Committee twice and come before you at your last meeting, and is before you tonight for approval.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve policy 2-50, settlement of claims. This has been approved by policy committee and does not need a second, sir.
Thank you. Questions? All those in favor of 2-50 settlement of claims, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none. We move on to 413, student assignment.
Okay, this came before you for approval at your last meeting, and the decision of the Board of Education was to send it back to Policy Committee for a third review in Policy Committee, and actually more than third, because I think we started this in August. So for review by the Policy Committee, and there were some changes made by the Policy Committee in that meeting, and so as to make it clear to the board as they're reviewing it, hopefully for approval tonight, on page 6 of 8 and 7 of 8, the writing that is in the royal blue, I guess, is the information that the Policy Committee has recommended be added at the last Policy Committee meeting. If you will note on page 7 of 8, it directs the superintendent to develop administrative guidelines to implement this policy. Those administrative guidelines were also included in your board packet.
Comments from anyone? We've been around this a bunch.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Martin has a question too.
No,
Oh,
please.
sorry, I couldn't see her, sorry.
Please.
We need to have a motion before we have discussion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we do. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Helms.
All right. I make a motion that we approve policy -4-13, student assignment. This comes from policy committee, so it does not need a second, sir.
Thanks. Ms. Merrill, you're on deck.
Yeah, I was just curious, with the administrative guidelines, that came with our packet, did we have an administrative guideline with the current policy, or is this document completely new?
This document is completely new. There were administrative guidelines to the policy previously, and most of the information has been folded into the policy itself, but this administrative guideline is completely different from the prior administrative guideline.
Now, for new board members, and correct me if I'm wrong, either one of you sitting close to me or standing at the podium, administrative guidelines are a superintendent's interpretation based on listening to the discussion of the board on how they want staff to interpret those guidelines, that policy. Am I correct?
It is an attempt in certain situations to interpret policy consistent with what the board's directed. Or it is when you direct the superintendent to develop them, it helps flesh out what you've directed.
Right. And normally it's done to consolidate a very wordy and lengthy policy into words that are understood.
Non-lawyer words, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cast aspersions on anybody's particular degree requirements, but the legal profession sometimes words things differently.
The goal of policy is to take the 20,000, feet look at things, and you develop the guiding, the foundation, those things. And then the superintendent and her staff's obligation is to kind of flesh that out and implement your big principles. And policy is the big principles, and guidelines kind of flesh that out.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
I just wanted to,
Ms.
I
Boyd?
know that you went through the change. I just want to say one thing under page 4 of 8, under children of employees. I know that this part hasn't changed, but I think it warrants repeating the very last line that says, within this category, employee requests will be prioritized for students seeking a transfer to the school location where the employee is assigned, or to a school where the student was assigned during the prior academic year. Because I think that's important to the high school teachers, because I think, one of their concerns were, we've got elementary kids, so where they're gonna go to school. So I think this kind of gives the grandfather, if you will, to where their children are currently. This will give them priority for next year. So I just want to point that out, because it is a concern for a high school teacher. Because it's very clear with the first part that if an elementary student, mom, teacher, their babies will come to them. So I just want that pointed out for the high school teachers to know.
And that's important to note that some high school teachers got that confused, and that's always been the case.
And that's fine. We've
Right.
gone back and forth on this policy, so the confusion
Right, it is.
I can understand it, because I may have been confused time to myself. So I just want to point that out, that is the grandfathering. If you will.
So what's the process for an employee that is trying to get into a school that's above watch level? Maybe you can just explain that to me for my benefit.
Sure. Well, the way it works under this administrative guideline that's been placed in your packets, the employee will make a request. And if that request is made by June 15th, and we had to kind of set a time frame to start looking at these. And Dr. Jeffrey's department, and correct me if I'm wrong, they begin once the school year ends, because they've got lots of work that has to go. And like our huge graphics department, Dr. Jeffrey's department is not much bigger. And so this June 15th date sets a date where things have to be in. And then employees will then make their request for a transfer. They can do that today. We have, I think, they do it today currently, absolutely. And we get them all year. I think Susan told me she has 60 or 70 in her office right now.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, and so then they'll be processed as of June 15th, and they'll be tiered. And children of employees, our kids who are in EC programs, and our kids who fall under No Child Left Behind. And that is students perhaps in a persistently dangerous school, which we don't have any of, or a student who's a victim of a violent assault is entitled to a transfer under that statute. So those will get processed first. And so the superintendent in that specific category, when we hit watch level, she can approve transfers up to 75% above that watch level. Now, if we hit 76% or 75% and we got one more, then it's going to still come to the board for approval as an appeal. But we've never hit that, so we don't expect to hit that for this, but that would be.
Well, my second question then,
Yep.
and Dr. Webb, maybe you can help me. How many schools currently are at 75% or above 70% of watch level?
One, I guess, one.
Two?
Newtown,
One?
Right now, we only have.
Porter Ridge Middle.
Two.
One elementary and one middle school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank Policy Chair Helms and the Policy Committee for revisiting this. I think we've got the clarity we need now. I particularly appreciate you guys looking after our rank and file employees as well as our contract employees like our SROs. I know that was important to all of us, and thank you for looking after those folks as well as teachers.
Go ahead.
I have one
Yes,
last
ma'am.
question. It's just a clarification to help me out. Can anyone from policy help me understand? So when I read on page 6.8, it says that no transfers will be granted to a school that has reached the watch level. It doesn't say 75% of the watch level.
It says except as set forth in the administrative guidelines.
Okay.
So then read this.
Okay.
Except by this.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Sykes, sir?
And once the teacher goes through this transfer process, they will have to reapply each year.
It's always been the case. Every
Okay.
transfer is annual,
Okay.
regardless of the category.
Are we to give our thoughts known to the superintendent as far as various scenarios for transfers for particularly teachers? I've had some come to me, and I'll just give you the scenario. We're talking about Newtown Elementary. She is not teaching under roof, but she's teaching in the cluster. She has a child at Newtown, and she has a rising child coming into kindergarten. So you already have one sibling in the CAP school. You got another one coming up. I hope it is our intention to keep the siblings together.
Well, the
in that
cap
scenario.
ends at the end of this school year. So it won't be capped after the end. You, as a board, would have to recap the school or cap the
Right.
school again in
Well,
the fall.
let's just say it's capped, or whatever school is capped. I'm just kind of painting the scenario, and I want to make sure everybody's on the same page of how it plays out.
Well, an employee, when we start for the school year, it starts fresh.
Right.
So there's nothing capped. So to put that in place would not make sense. So when an employee, if that were me and I submit my application, when it came before the superintendent, so long as within that 75% above watch level, that would be approved. The current and the new, regardless of whether I teach in Newtown or in the cluster.
But when a school is capped, it's above the 75%.
But it wouldn't be capped when you're doing this process. because
That's
it's
exactly
uncapped.
right.
That's
That
why,
is
But if they
that's what
apply
I
right
said.
now, before the school's over with, if school year's over with, it's capped right now.
But they don't, transfer process doesn't take place till the summer because it's for the next school year.
Yeah, but you can apply before, you said before.
Right, but we don't process it till the school's end and the cap's
All right.
lifted. So then I would apply, I could apply today.
Right.
On June 15th, Dr. Jeffries' folks will start looking at it. And if I teach in the Cuthbertson cluster,
Right.
my children, under this policy, will be able to be approved regardless if I'm a rising fifth grader, rising kindergartner, rising senior. And I will be approved so long as we are not above the 75% watch level by Dr. Ellis through Dr. Jeffries or designee. And if I hit above that, then it will before the board and you all will make a decision as the panel as to what you do.
Well, Mr. Sides, also, one of the things that Mr. Chairman had said that if we do get a teacher in the middle of the school year, and part of the deal is, it's capped, that we would try to expedite and get an emergency appeal meeting together to try to meet those needs. So that's how we would have to address that.
I think our policy's been made clear, and with the latitude of the administrative procedures by the superintendent, Mr. Chairman, I think we're prepared to call the question.
Thank you. And this comes from. Good. If there are no more comments, I would love to see a show of hands. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, seeing none, we have finally moved 413 to the good side. Thank you.
That is not the longest time a board has ever taken with the policy. In 2000 and about 6 or 7, 5, 8 took a year. This is a close second, but it took a year.
We weren't even close with this one. Although I will admit this one wasn't quite as complicated as that one.
Well, that was 6, education.
All right, the last one.
416, use of student transportation services. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Nope, I was trying to keep it in my time frame, This came before the board at the last meeting for your review. It's gone to policy before and subsequent to that meeting, and this is hopefully for your approval tonight as well.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve policy 4-16, the use of student transportation services. And this does come from policy, so it does not need a second, sir.
Thank you. All those in favor of the policy, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. We put policy to bed tonight. And now we're up to 20 comments from the board.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Seebeck and her staff for hosting us tonight. Could have eaten the first little boy. He was too stinking cute. Fifth graders did a phenomenal job. Thank you so much for hosting us. Your staff was very accommodating and very welcoming, and we do appreciate that greatly. Also, just an FYI, the Union County Educational Foundation has a 5K this Saturday. And this money goes back into our schools for teacher grants, mini grants. So anybody that can come out, please come out and help support UCPS and our teachers. We greatly appreciate it.
I certainly don't appreciate the way you looked at me. You know I don't run. Any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank Weddington Elementary and Weddington Middle for their hospitality. I'd like to thank the board for your confidence in me in appointing me. I'm excited to join the board and look forward to working and getting to work with you guys. I want to thank District 6 and Union County for the outpouring support over the past several weeks. It's been humbling. And I just look forward to improving communication and working hard and partnering to keep moving us forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you. More comments?
I've got one quick one. I wanted
Sure,
to say
Ms. Boyd.
that I know that I want to thank Ms. Ebeck and Weddington Elementary and the PTA. Everything was great. I also want to just briefly mention that the legislative breakfast that we did have, I know Dr. Ellis mentioned it, it was great. Each time we meet with the legislators, I feel a little bit better. We're never going to get everything, but one little step forward helps me feel a lot better. And then lastly, I had the privilege of being invited to a round table today, and that was with the County Commissioner, Chair Richard Helms, and members from 3 town councils. And we just talked about everything that's going on, growth and fire safety and, new subdivisions. It's a collaborative effort that they wanted to do. And fortunately, during the campaign, they heard that that was something that I was willing to do. And it was a positive light. Chairman Helms and I did not get into, any discussions. We mutually agreed upon that we're moving in the right direction, that he feels very confident in Chairman Collins and our staff. So I just want to say that being a part of that and listening to everyone coming together, we're going in the right direction. And I feel very hopeful for the rest of the year and the years to come. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Helms and I do talk quite often and occasionally share some coffee.
Mr. Chair, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
thank our host for the hospitality tonight, and rest assured I will chuckle every time I hear or see a baboon going forward. The working group will be meeting tomorrow night, and I can't say enough how encouraged I am with the dialogue that the 2 chairs of our boards are having, the progress that the working group is making. I think we are turning a corner, and I take great pride in realizing maybe our focus is going to be on educating instead of litigating for a change. It's been a long, hard fight past 2 years. A lot of doors have opened, a lot of dialogues going on. We've got some housekeeping to do, but I am just wholeheartedly encouraged by seeing the progress these 2 boards are making, and invite everybody to come watch the working group work tomorrow night as we try to figure out some funding solutions.
I too would like to thank Weddington and Seebeck especially, not for what people think, for that phone number that you figured out for me earlier today. That was wonderful. It just lifted the burden for me. I've been getting a call from that number every day now for a week, and you told me exactly what it was. Thank you so much. See, there's a personal thing that happens every now and then. Any other comments? Let's go to announcements. Do we have any meetings coming up?
Yes, sir, we do.
I heard that one. Yes, sir, go.
On the 28th, the Finance Committee will be meeting at 7:30 in the morning at the PDC. So
Mr. Chair, Mr. Guzman has once again beat me to the punch. I was going to schedule facilities at 08:30 on the 28th, but considering we'll be working on the budget with finance that morning, facilities will meet April the 30th, which will be Thursday morning at 8:30 in the main boardroom at the Central Administration. 08:30.
Sir, you can't make it another day, but Thursday's Might be a problem for me.
Wednesday? Yeah, we can do Wednesday, the
Can we do-
29th. It's good with staff.
29th?
Wednesday, the 29th we can do 8:30. We could go earlier if you want, you guys
Oh,
want
I could go at 6:30 if you want.
to. We'll get there early and stay late. 0 dark 30. We'll call it off, right?
Did you say the 29th?
29th,
29th at 8:30? Okay, good enough.
And you said in the boardroom, is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am. Can you get that reserved for us?
Yes, we certainly can.
Thank you very much.
any other comments, any other announcements that need to be made? I don't think I've missed any. Plus deltas? No? Do I need to make this motion prior to going to adjourning? Because we'll have to come back in here to adjourn. We will come back here to adjourn sometime before midnight is my guess. I certainly hope so. But we will have no business to conduct as far as I know. So I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 to prevent the disclosure of student privileged information under 115C402 of the North Carolina General Statute and FERPA 20 USC 12, is that state statute 12? Federal statute 12. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1, prevent the disclosure of privileged information under 143-131 of the North Carolina General Statutes, and also pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with our attorney, in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged, and to consider and give instructions concerning judicial action, Smith versus UCBOE and UCBOE versus UCBOCC.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?